Grow, Sell, and Retire is the podcast for the lazy overachiever. B.D. Dalton, author of True Gravity and Grow, Sell, and Retire, is here to give you his 25 years of secrets, tips, and systems to take your business to the next level. This is your chance to find out what is working in sales, marketing, and running your business. If you stop learning, you stop earning. Now, here's your host, BD, with today's GSR podcast.
Hey everybody, BD Dalton here, Grow, Sell, and Retire podcast, and I'm with the Frame of Mind coach, Kim Ades. So Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Super happy to be here.
And where are you right today? Because I'm in Birmingham, UK. Where are you?
I'm in Toronto, Canada, and it's really sunny here. We're really happy about that right now.
And so obviously we're in one of the weirdest times we've probably been in most people's business careers. And you're chatting to clients over Zoom or doing all these things. What's something that you might be asking them that's different than you would have done prior to this interesting time frame of COVID-19 and lockdowns? What are some of the things that are different?
Yeah, well, actually, we don't do Zoom because we don't do any of our coaching face-to-face, and there's reasons for that. But the first question we ask now is, where are you physically? In other words, are you in a space where you can talk freely? Historically, we always assume that they would find a private space. Now, maybe not so much. It's harder to find a little bit of a quiet spot in the house or in some safe office to talk. And very often we hear people roaming around in the background. And so privacy is a premium these days.
And do you find that with the heightened level of tumult, and change in people's lives, do you find that is there a lot more emotion in the coaching now, or has that changed with what you're talking about with clients?
You know what? I have always experienced a high degree of emotion with my coaching clients because I work with leaders who are, typically juggling a lot of balls, dealing with, very complex situations, running companies, running families, etc. So it's always been highly emotional. I haven't noticed a dramatic change in the level of emotion. It's still emotional.
That's very good. So we're at this time now, and I have a financial advice business. And so obviously when people's portfolios are going up and down and all over the place, people get a bit nerve-wracked. What are some ways, especially now with businesses and having to either furlough people or lay them off or wait for government checks? What are some ways that you're able to take those emotions or work with people and have ourselves ask questions to level our playing field or level our emotions? What are some tools that we can use that you've been using with your clients for 15 plus years?
That's a great question. I think one of the biggest experiences or the biggest things that people are talking about right now is that there is a massive change that we're experiencing. And the truth is that we're always experiencing change, and that this is not all that different from any previous or prior change. And I know that sounds a little weird, but it's how we perceive things that affect us, right? So we're always in change. We're always in flux. And so if we can imagine or understand that that's the function of life, the function of living, then it becomes easier to not take this experience as so unprecedented, as we always say, right? So how do we take this experience and, I don't want to say normalize it, but not make it so extreme, and help people to understand that this is a wave that we need to ride like many other waves we've ridden in the past. And so just the perspective on this experience is really, really important. And I know some people are really, really struggling in comparison to others. And at the same time, again, my job in life is to help people build their emotional resilience and to help them ride these kinds of waves. So the way that I do that is to help them see this wave as rideable, if you will.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you were referring to that thing as change is constant. And everybody says everything's unprecedented. It's always unprecedented. It's right. over the last 5 weeks now. I take a picture of the news clippings every day, and I'll in 2 years I want to be able to show this to people and say this the world was ending. Look, this is what was happening, and newspapers are there designed to sell papers. They're not designed to make us feel better.
Well, that's certainly part of it. But at the same time, like we've, on an individual basis, many of us have experienced massive change, whether it's a change in marital status, or suddenly we have kids, or one of our parents passes away, or, we have to move. Like, we experience change on an ongoing basis. And what's unique about this is we're all in the same change. We're all in the same change.
That's amazing. So when you're talking and getting people more resilient, or helping them build themselves up, the frame of mind, what are some exercises or some things that we can think about to really put that into that frame of mind? And it's a beautiful name for a company. But so
what I do is I look at how leaders think and how their thinking impacts their outcomes. So again, we're in a unique situation. Let's call it that. The question is, how are we thinking about this? What do we believe to be true about it? So do we believe that this is the end of the world? Well, that's going to cause us to shut down, right? That's going to cause us to feel really bad, really tired, really hopeless. And if that's the way we think about it, we're not really going to take any massive action. We're going to literally go take a nap. Right?
Yes.
And so the question becomes, how can we think about this in such a way that we can leverage the opportunity it affords us? Right? So we teach people how to think about their situation and look for the opportunity in it. More specifically, what we're looking for is, what do you believe to be true about anything, about your company, about your employees, about your family, about COVID-19, about anything. And those beliefs will drive your experience. So if you believe things to be disastrous, you will have a disastrous experience. If you believe them to be temporary, you tend to handle it a little bit better, right?
Yes.
And so what I'm interested in is always looking for what it is that people believe. So very often I give people an exercise. I'll give you an example.
Go for it.
When we coach people, we ask them to journal in an online journal. And very often, actually at the beginning of every week, we give them a journaling question. And every time they journal, their journal comes back to their coach. I have a team of coaches who then reads and responds to their journal. But oftentimes when I speak, I like to ask people the following question. And you guys can write it down if you want. What is it that you really, really want more than anything? And it's very interesting, because I asked this question with two reallys on purpose. Why? Because a lot of people know what they think they should want. They know what other people want for them. They know what is expected of them. They know what their parents want for them, or their spouse, or their children. But they're not always completely in touch or aware of what they truly deeply want. So write down the answer. What is it that you truly deeply want more than anything? The second question is, so what's stopping you from having it? What's getting in the way? And write down all the reasons that you don't currently have what you want. And those two questions are extremely powerful. Why? Because number one, it's causing you to think about what do you want in your life? What do you want your life to be like? What do you want your life to be about? And then the second part of it is, so what's getting in your way? And really the question is, what do you believe to be true?
That's great. And so
right.
When is part of that edification, is that because they're writing it down? Because is that part of, does that help in the process?
Well, when you write something down, you're forced to stop and think, right? So oftentimes we're just living our lives and we're not stopping to think. We're not stopping to reflect, right? So we very rarely give ourselves the kind of time and space to figure out what it is we want and where we want to be going and how to get there. We're just like on this treadmill. We're just kind of going, kind of unconsciously. We wake up in the morning and we think, what do we need to do? And we just go to it, right?
Yes.
Sort of a little bit, robotically, you could say. And what I want people to do is slow down and say, hey, is your life a reflection of your desires? And this really applies to leaders because leaders are always in the doing mode. And I want them to slow down because if the outcomes they're getting aren't consistent with what they really want, then continuing to just do isn't getting them where they want to be going. So I want to slow people down.
Very cool. So does your life equal your desires? That's fabulous. And so do you kind of, I'm not giving names or anything like that, but an example of somebody that's taken this to heart and changed what they were doing? Do you have some? I'm sure you have lots of examples.
Yeah, I have tons.
Lots and lots. But could you give us a couple that we can latch on to?
Absolutely. I'll give you a story of one of my clients. So I was introduced to this gentleman from an existing client. He said, "Hey, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. And I want you to coach him, but here's the thing. I want you to be really careful with him, and I want you to treat him with kid gloves." Now, I'm a pretty direct person, so that came to me as a bit of a surprise. I said, why would you frame it like that? He said, well, he has stage 4 cancer. And I thought, okay, I'm happy to talk to him. So I got on the phone with him, and he actually runs a financial services company where he helps business owners manage their accounting and provides valuations for companies and does forecasting, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so I got on the phone with him and I said, hey, I have 2 questions. Question number 1 is, how long do you have left to live? Kind of hard question to ask someone, right?
Definitely.
And I remember, like, right before I asked that question, I remember kind of taking a bit of a deep breath. But I asked the question and he said, I'm really not sure. I'm guessing about 2 years. I'm taking all these experimental drugs, but I really don't know. And I said, okay, well, second question, how can I help you? What is it that you want to achieve as a result of coaching? And he said, well, what I really, really want is I want you to help me increase my productivity. And I was a little bit surprised with that response. Right? You have 2 years left to live. Are you thinking about productivity? I said, well, why is that important to you? He said, well, I want to increase the value of my company so that, when I go, I have something to leave behind. I said, okay. I said, let me ask you a different question. What is it that you really, really want? That infamous question. Yes. He said, well, what I really, really want is I really, really want more time. And I really do want to increase the value of my company. And I want to be able to sell it so I have something to leave behind. But I want to buy a house and I want to be in this great relationship. And I want to take my mother on a wild vacation. And I want to buy a house and I want to run a marathon. I said, well, let's do that instead. Yep. And he said, well, okay. And we started coaching. And one of the things I realized is that every single project, every single client that he had to touch personally. Every single valuation that went out the door, he had to make sure was done correctly. So what did he do? Inadvertently, in his desire to deliver incredible service to his clients, he became the bottleneck in his organization. And so I said, you know what? I think we should talk about hiring people. He said, I can't afford to hire anyone. And my response was, I don't think you can afford not to hire anyone.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, your life is at stake here. And, what we did was we rearranged some things. We addressed his beliefs. We addressed the belief that A, he had to touch everything that went out the door. B, that there were not enough resources for him to bring in so that he could hire more people. And what ended up happening was that he started to hire the right people. He ended up with a little bit more space and time for himself. Like, in my view, my job was to help him do less so that he had a better fighting chance, right? Reduce his stress. He ended up selling his company. He ended up taking his mother on 2 amazing vacations. He ended up in a wonderful relationship. He ended up running a triathlon and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro last year.
Cool.
And he ended up buying a house and renovating it. He did all the things that he wanted to do. And that was 5 years ago.
Very cool.
So when we look at how a leader thinks, we start to understand where they get trapped and stuck, where they create problems for themselves that don't necessarily have to be there.
And that's so it's that frame of mind that keeps bringing us back to that, which is, I think, is just great throughout this time frame, is that really getting to that really question that brings you around to everything that you're doing. And I don't think people ask themselves enough when they're in the rat race. And I think that this time frame, we've gotten the chance to rethink a lot of things.
Well, and I think it's a great opportunity to rethink a lot of things. And, we're usually so busy just in our lives that we don't take a step back and look at what our lives really are all about. Like, what are relationships doing? What are we doing with our bodies and our health? What are we doing with our business and our professional lives? Like, what are we doing? We're so busy in it that we can't really work on it, right? Same business principles apply.
And that's really cool. So what's right now when you're looking at your business overall, and I think, so were you always working from home, or as in everybody is working in separate places, or were you under one roof, or what's changed for you during this in the way that you do business on a daily basis versus with the clients?
Yeah, so we had our admin or operations from an office, but all of our coaches were in their own location. So we're used to working virtually. Now, all of the core admin are at home right now. Everybody's at home. But we're used to this virtual feel, right? We're used to it. So it wasn't such a dramatic change. It was a dramatic change for me in terms of, I always used to think there's no way I can work from home. Like, I'll go nuts working from home, but I haven't gone nuts. Okay, so, I get to make dinner a little earlier. I get to walk on the treadmill a little longer in the mornings and so on, right? So I turned it into a bit of an advantage, and I'm kind of just learning to be at home with greater peace, like without getting all itchy and dying to go somewhere, right? So that's the big change for me, really.
That's really good, and that's what if you can frame it in opportunities versus challenges, it really starts to really put things into perspective and makes things happen. So What do you have a little bit more time on your hands, less time going to work and more time at the house. What type of what either tech or is making your life more efficient or more fun? Some sort of technology.
So I mean, what's making my life more fun is I have 5 kids and they're all older, and right now I have 4 out of 5 kids at home. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting to just be around them and with them. And while this has absolutely nothing to do with work, actually, it's a hilarious story. One of the kids decided that we should all watch a show together every night. And so we have dinner, we play a few rounds of cards, and then we've gone and watched Schitt's Creek. I don't know if you've ever heard of that show.
Yes, I have.
It's a Canadian show. And so we watched the whole series. And what was crazy is that I remember I had a client in the past, and she's a friend of mine on Facebook, and she was like really into the show. And I just kind of vaguely remember it in the background. And I went to look it up, and it turns out that she is the head of the Schitt's Creek fan club on Facebook, and every year organizes ShitCon. I don't know why I'm telling you this.
That's awesome.
And so it like a huge distraction, but also a huge source of entertainment to be watching the show and to be part of this group. And I'm really not the groupie type at all. I'm getting a serious charge from all of this. So, again, you're in the throes of kind of being at home, and where your entertainment is going to have to be different. So you have to fill it up somehow.
It's amazing. No, and I think, but that is technology in general, is because it's Netflix or whatever you're watching. And I think that entertainment being accessible is changed the world.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And just being kind of together with my family, doing it together, definitely a bonding experience.
No, it's great. Okay. So what are you reading? What's keeping you entertained in that when you're not watching Schitt's Creek and doing things like that. Are you reading, or what are some of your favorite authors that you point people towards?
Well, I do a lot of reading, but right now in terms of my reading, which is keeping me super busy, I recently launched a group coaching program. And historically, I've stayed away from it because I've been traveling so much for speaking engagements. Now I'm not traveling. So I launched this group coaching program. And again, we ask our clients to journal every single day in an online journaling platform. So I've got like 30 people journaling every single day, and I am reading all of their journals. So that's taking up a lot of time. Yeah.
Well, and so if somebody's a coach or somebody that's listening to this deals with people, and whether it's a mentor or a coach, how do you keep yourself from getting too engrossed emotionally in their problems, issues, ideas? Yeah, how do you separate yourself from the client?
Yeah. So a few things. So I have so many answers for that. So the first thing I want to say is that my job as a coach is to hold a vision of my clients' well-being, their success, their thriving, right? So that's my job. So when I see them thrashing about, I understand immediately that that's temporary and that it will pass, and I will bring them through this tough time to that better state. Like, that's my job. And if I can't see them, if I can't envision them in a better state, then I'm not really equipped to coach them, right? So
yes,
I see them struggling, but I don't get bothered by it because I know that this is only right now, and this will pass, right? And so after I've been doing this for 16 years, I'm very rarely rattled by clients. Very rarely. Not that it never happens. It happens once in a blue moon, but typically not so much, right?
Good.
So the second thing is, and this will be a little bit surprising, is that a lot of, and you might think so, a lot of coaches believe that the single most important characteristic of coaching is to be empathetic. Yes?
Yes.
But what is empathy? Empathy is an emotional experience where you put yourself in the shoes of another person and experience their emotional state. So let me kind of describe that to you. Imagine you're walking by and you notice someone drowning in a pool. How are they feeling emotionally?
Scared, worried, thinking about what they hadn't done in their life.
Well, they're panicking, right? They're breathless. They're panicking. They're desperate. And if I am empathetic in that moment, then I feel scared, panicking, breathless, desperate too. And so in that state, I cannot help them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So literally, if I become empathetic when I see someone drowning, it's like I'm hopping into the pool and drowning right beside them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what I need to be able to do is actually have compassion. I see them drowning. I need to be able to say, oh my God, they need help. But I need to be able to stand solidly on the outside of the pool and, bend over, give them my hand and pull them out. In order for me to do that, I need to stay outside of the pool. I can't join them and drown right alongside with them. So I always want to have compassion, but empathy in coaching is very tricky and does not always serve us. And that's really crazy, right? I bet you've never heard that before.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It definitely makes sense.
But for me, in order to bring someone to a new place, I need to be able to see them in a new place. I need to be able to see them outside of the pool and safe.
That's cool. That's very good. So that's your adhering to their vision and helping them stick to it when they're feeling
exactly. Exactly.
Very good. And so where can we find more about you, Kim?
So the best place to find me is frameofmindcoaching.com.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes, obviously. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And if anyone has been listening and took down those 2 journaling questions, what do you really, really want? And what's getting in your way right now? What's stopping you from having it? Send it my way. Send those responses to me. and I would be happy to connect you with one of my coaches to go over your responses together. Again, no strings attached, completely a complimentary coaching call.
That's awesome.
My email address is kim@frameofmindcoaching.com.
Perfect. That's fabulous. Thank you so much for putting that there. Last thing. So somebody shows up, and this is kind of the red button moment. They're just tuning into the last 2 minutes of this. And what is your top tip that's going to make them now rewind and listen to the whole show again? What is your top tip if this is the only time that they've listened to the show and they're going to say, I need to go back and listen to what Kim had to say from the beginning? Top tip to the listeners.
If you are a small business owner, a leader, anybody, if you're trying to achieve something and you're super frustrated, if something is tripping you up, if you feel like you're not where you want to be and your knee-jerk reaction is, I got to do something different, I've got to take massive action, my recommendation is don't do any of that. Stop for a minute and ask yourself, what do I believe to be true about this problem, this situation, this customer, this competitor, whatever it is that's frustrating you? What do I believe to be true? Before taking any action. Why? Because when you take action and your thoughts are not aligned with your goals, your outcomes are not going to be what you desire. So rather than doing, taking massive action, right? Rather than deciding to make a change to your actions or your doing, I recommend that you take a pause and look at your thinking and make a change there first before you take action.
That's an awesome thing to think about and an awesome thing to do. And it doesn't always have to be when you're in a crazy spot either. Stopping and thinking and taking time is an amazing thing. So Kim Ades, Frame of Mind Coaching. Thank you very much for coming on the Grow, Sell, and Retire podcast today. We've really enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
Enjoy your day, and the listeners can catch up on all the show notes and everything else, and we will have it all on Spreaker and iTunes. So thank you very much, Kim Ades.
Thanks for joining us on Grow, Sell, and Retire. For more information, tools, or to book one of our team members to work with your team, business, or to speak at your event or conference, visit bartdaltonconsulting.com or email contact@bartdaltonconsulting.com. Buy the book True Gravity on Amazon. If you want to work for the rest of your life, that is your business. If you don't, that is ours.